Okay, let's dive into this real quick. So we've talked a lot here recently about the issue of physical video games, right? And the reason it's become such a hot topic is because games are becoming so big you can't fit them on one disc. And this has kind of come to a head with the release of things like Jedi Survivor, which should have never released when it did, anyways. But um, it did. And if you wanted a physical copy of the game, you could buy it, but you wouldn't be able to play that game unless you downloaded another 40 to 50 gigs worth of data to be installed uh, along with the playable disc. And which kind of for a lot of people defeats the purpose of buying physical copies of games, right? A lot of people buy physical copies because they don't have very good internet or they don't have internet at all. There are other reasons, nostalgia, collectors, things like that. But there's a large population of people that are gamers that still don't have great connectivity, and so they go for physical. PC has gone away from physical for quite a while now, but the console side is still there very much. And we're seeing different developers and publishers address this situation differently currently because ultimately you've got the Switch that runs like basically SD cards, right? Which can be filled with more storage space than an optical media can. So they don't run into as much of an issue. But like the Xbox and PlayStation, they're still running on optical drives. And even though, the highest capacity, that they can run is Blu-ray. And even those discs aren't close to the amount of storage space needed for a single disc to run a physical copy of a game. And so through the history of gaming, it was like normal for an amount of time to have numerous discs, right? But that's been a thing of the past for quite some time. And developers don't want to go back to that because it's expensive, right? So we've seen things happen, like I said, with Jedi Survivor, with a physical disc where you still have to download data to be installed. We're not talking about day one patch stuff. We're talking about data that has to be installed to play the physical copy of the game that you also bought. To Alan Wake 2 coming out, where they go, the game's too big. We're not going to be pushing out physical copies at all. It's just digital. That's all you get. That doesn't mean there won't be some places that might make some, collaborate with the developer to get the rights to be able to push out some physical copies of the game eventually or something like that. But out the gate, there won't be anything. There might not ever, And now we're getting Final Fantasy VII Rebirth that has decided to go ahead and push out the game on 2 discs, right? This is what I've been talking about for a while, though. I think the next generation, I'm actually surprised this generation of consoles still went with optical drives. I don't think they need to completely get away from optical drives because I think they need to get better with backwards compatibility, meaning that you should still be able to have an optical drive in these consoles so that you can play your old physical games if you still have them from any of their previous generations. But we know how these businesses address that kind of stuff, especially Nintendo and PlayStation. They're not very nice with backwards compatibility. Xbox is getting better, right? But I don't think that the next generation of consoles is really going to be able to continue to use optical drives for physical gaming if they plan on still doing physical releases. It's just not enough. You're going to have to move into something, some other form of media, a different medium for releasing physical games. It's just not enough, man. So let's dive into this now. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is so big that it's coming out on 2 discs, and the grand finale of Summer Game Fest 2023 went out on a high note with brand new footage of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is now slated for an early 2024 release date. The game is so big that it will release on 2 discs. FF7 Rebirth is the second of the 3 planned games in the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy, starting with 2020's Final Fantasy VII Remake. That game only covered the initial Midgar section of the game, though it expanded upon and added new content and features to flesh it out. With the conclusion of that title, as well as the episode intermission DLC, we've only had a small glimpse of how as to how Rebirth will handle the game once going to the open world. Trailer shows off quite a bit of footage, opening with news footage of the Avalanche crew being wheeled away on stretchers after a tornado apparently stuck. I think it's supposed to be struck. Sector 2. From there, we cut to the cast exploring several open natural environments on foot and riding chocobos. Many other iconic shots show scenes such as the meeting at Cosmo Canyon with Bugenhagen, the flashback of Nibelheim, and what even appears to be the Northern Crater. New combat footage is similar to Rebirth, but with some notable additions. Red 13 and Yuffie are both confirmed to be playable. There are also look to be team-up style limit break moves. See Tifa and Aerith, Yuffie and Red 13, as well as Cloud and Barrett appear to pull off some of these moves. Trailer ends with the big mystery of Sephiroth stating that you know that I killed her, so who is she? Perhaps referring to Aerith, but while showing scenes of Tifa to perhaps imply a change in the timeline. While Final Fantasy VII Rebirth didn't get a release date as we'd hoped, it was narrowed down. Initially, the game was simply stated as coming this winter, but will now arrive on PS5 in early 2024 and come on 2 discs. So, being somebody that always played Final Fantasy games, it's actually a little bit nostalgic, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday when this was announced. It's a little bit nostalgic to have multiple discs on a Final Fantasy game, but again, I don't think devs are really looking to do this very much again, you know? It's expensive. It's expensive. The more discs you have to print for each physical release, the less you're making on, even though they are now doing $70 a pop, you know, the less money they're going to make, and most devs don't want to get to the point of where we're back into a state that we've been away from for so long of having to, you know, release multiple discs or physical pieces of media for one game, right? So I truly don't see games continuing to be released in future generations of consoles on optical. I think they still need an optical drive because I think that these console companies, console developers, they need to be better about backwards compatibility, and they need to continue to give people the option of having the optical drives to put their previous gen games in to play on the newer gen consoles, but they're going to have to move over to something else, in my opinion. I don't know what their thought process is right now. That's just initially what I'm thinking. Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I've talked about that too, man. No, PC's not at all. I've talked about that. PC's been away from physical for a long time, and I'm not talking about PC. I'm talking about console. PC has embraced the digital space for a long time now. The PC players have been a part of the digital frontier in gaming for quite some time, but console has not been nearly as fast to adopt that. You know, the console is still and I mean, I still think that the next gen consoles, I don't think they're going to go totally digital, dude. I don't see them doing it. I just don't see it happening. I think it would be better. I think it would be better, but I don't know that they'll do it. I mean, it's taken them this long. It's slowly happening. Here's the big issue. Look, they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot a little bit, if you ask me. Here's the big issue. Modern new gen consoles come out with still crap storage space. Right? Honestly, they don't come out with very much storage space. Mithril, same here, dude. I haven't put a DVD drive or a Blu-ray drive or anything in a PC in a long time. I just have I have USB drives for it just in case. That's it. I've got a couple of them floating around here. That's it, man. I have an old PC that still has a Blu-ray drive in it. A great one, a Samsung. I love it, dude. But that's it. It's a PC I built back in like 2012. But consoles are kind of hurting themselves, if you ask me. They don't want to put big storage space in their consoles, right? So a lot of people are reluctant to adopt fully the digital space, right? Because they don't have a ton of space to put all those games on a big hard drive. They don't have a big hard drive, right? And there are even some of these manufacturers like Xbox that have made expansion storage proprietary. So they have contracted out, I think it's Western Digital and Seagate are the only companies that can make expansion storage for the Xbox console. And if you want a terabyte of space, it's around $200, which is absurd. That's like a 300% markup from what a terabyte of solid state drive would actually cost you on a PC. Psych, what's up, dude? So, I mean, how do they expect their clientele, their customers, to adopt into a digital space of gaming when they're not giving them enough space on a hard drive to install the games they want to have installed all at one time, you know? So I feel like console players are not doing themselves any favors right now either, you know? Right, right, right. Now, like PlayStation, you can go buy a bigger, you know, hard drive to throw in yourself and stuff, but Xbox isn't that easy. And so they're not doing themselves any favors, man. You know? In my opinion, ultimately, if the console space wants to transform over into digital gaming just like PC has, they've got to start pushing out their consoles with much better expansive storage systems. Otherwise, gamers just aren't going to do it all the way, you know? I just don't see it. So, I don't know. We got a lot of things. I think not us, but the console developers themselves have some big issues to tackle moving forward. And how they're going to address this issue. It's a big deal, I think.